Okay, so today's video is actually going to be the review for Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1. Let's just get right into it. Starting off with the plot, I gave it an 8.5. It felt a little slow at the start, but I did generally like the vibe of the show. And then I don't know, everything it felt a little nerfed in the first season. It felt like it was just basic introductions, which, with most animes, like the first season is basically just going to be introduction season anyway. But for that, I feel like it did a pretty good job of like explaining what was going on with Yuji and basically, explaining the world. That's pretty much just what the first season's about. Is just making sure that whoever's watching the show understands the concept of it. So for the plot, I'd give it an 8.5 just because it's like good, but it's not like great. It doesn't go over the top and do anything too crazy. I will say for the voice acting though, the voice acting in season 1 was really good. And I've already seen season 2. I can go ahead and tell you season 2, it's about the same rating. It's a little bit better in season 2 than it is in season 1, but I give it an 8.9 for voice acting. Hold up, let me I always forget to update these. Plot. Okay, so we got an 8.5 on the plot. And then for dialogue, or no, that's not dialogue. For acting, we give it a good firm 8.9. Alright, yeah. I need to rearrange that at some point. But yeah, the voice acting was really good in season 1. Obviously with Gojo, with Yuji, with Fushiguro. I think that's his name. I think Nobara was also pretty good. Panda, Mekamaru, pretty much everybody on the cast did a really good job with the voice acting. And when it comes to anime, you're not necessarily doing acting, you're doing voice acting, but the amount of effort they put into the voice acting, it really like it doesn't. I'm trying to think of like the best way to put it. How like acting in like normal like shows, like live action shows and movies and stuff like that. I said normal. I didn't. Not that anime is not normal. But like in live action shows and movies, you can kind of be dragged out of the movie and out of the immersion of a TV show or a movie, depending on if the acting is good or bad. And I think the same thing is probably it's relevant as far as voice acting goes with animated projects. And this definitely didn't do it. If anything, it really kind of immerses you even more. Even though immersion is not the goal of this series, the voice acting does not take you out of it. If anything, it drives you further into it. But yeah, that's how I feel about the voice acting. I feel like there's just a lot of good performances. Dialogue. Okay, so this is actually kind of a tricky one. I'm going to give it a 8.2. Now, the reason I give it an 8.2, the dialogue in it's like fine. Like, it's not like bad dialogue. Like, it's not like, you don't really hear too many cringy lines. They might, kind of set stuff up, but my main complaint is that a lot of the dialogue in the show is just saying, like, not how bad dialogue will be saying what's going on. It's there's so much to explain with Jujutsu Kaisen that they have to explain the powers and the way that everything works in the world, and that just kind of dulls it down. It feels like you're kind of taking in like almost a lesson, like you're almost getting taught more so than you are watching a show or watching a movie. It feels like you're in a lesson trying to learn this world. So I guess that's really my only complaint with the dialogue. The dialogue, if it didn't have that in it, if it had like a little bit more nuance in it, I'd maybe put it about an 8.5, 8.6. But unfortunately, it's kind of there's a lot of just straight up telling you about the action, the powers, the styles, like and stuff like that. All right, so cinematography. So cinematography, when it comes to animation, is really more about like animation style and the overall visuals as a whole. I give it an 8.9. I feel like Jujutsu Kaisen does a pretty good job with their animation. It looks very good during the fight scenes. That's the main thing that they got to nail, and they did nail it. So that's very important. That's why it's almost a 9. It's an 8.9. But yeah, I felt like they did a really good job. It's one of my, I don't want to say one of my favorite like animation style, but it's definitely not at the bottom, and it's definitely like above average, I think, for animation style. So yeah, there's not really much to say about it. The fights look really good, I guess, is the main point to get across there. And they kind of like go in between different styles of animation. To use one for comedy, use one for like serious action, but also they use kind of like these like mixes of like, I don't even really know how to describe it. It's like it's like this mixed live action anime type where it's like the animation looks more lively. I'm sure there's a definition or like a term for what I'm talking about, but they have some fight scenes that it looks a little bit more crisp, a little bit more clean, like and almost like a little bit more raw too. The soundtrack. All right, so the soundtrack in these shows and like anime shows, so you have really two types of like anime shows you can judge as far as like the soundtrack goes. You have shows like I think like Avatar: The Last Airbender and like Naruto and stuff like that that kind of creep the music in throughout the episode where it's noticeable and it's noticeably good. And then you have shows like I'd say like this and like Cyberpunk Edge Runners is a good example where there's not as much like noticeable like music or like a noticeable soundtrack during the scenes, but it's like the intro and the outro are very noticeable. It's actually one of the things I would say Attack on Titan does phenomenal is they do both styles. They do both the Naruto memorable during the episode and they do memorable intros and outros. But for Jujutsu Kaisen season 1, it's pretty much just the intro outro style, and I really like the intros and outros for season 1, so I gave it a 9. Not much that I can really remember during the episodes, not like anything that really stood out to me. But yeah, definitely the intros and outros were good. So now, let me get that soundtrack rating up there. And let's see. All right, soundtrack rating. All right, now, that's a little off. Okay, I need to, yeah, there we go. Oh, no, it's off because it needs to be a 9.0. Completely forgot about that. Sorry about that. Okay, I think that's fine. All right, and okay, so now the bonus categories. So immersion is one of the bonus categories. Unfortunately, the show's not going for that, so I can't really judge off of that. Comedy. The comedy on the show, I'd give it about an 8.2. There's some funny jokes in season 1. I will say a noticeable change for the next video. I'll say it in the next video because it's one of the bonus categories for season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen. Is that the next season? It's one of the first times this is going to happen. I don't really think it's going to happen too often with a show where one season I say, it definitely was going for comedy, and then the next season it definitely was not. In season 2, I did not feel like the comedy was like a large element of it. Obviously, it's still a part of it because if it was capable of getting a comedy rating in the first season, that means it's going to have some elements of comedy. But I wouldn't say that it's applicable to season 2 to even say that it has comedy as like a key feature of it, because it's mainly about fighting and drama and just pure action. So world building in season 1, 9.3, they did a pretty good job of explaining everything in like the Jujutsu Sorcerer world and the Curse world. I feel like they did a really good job of letting you know exactly what was going on with like Yuji and the Sukuna power, but also like Gojo and his history, and basically wrapping up the entirety of like what the school actually is, what the world is, and then on top of that, introducing all these different characters to build out these parts of the world. These different parts of the world is what I meant there, which kind of like leads into our next category, which is characters. I gave it a 9.2. I think I said I gave world building a 9.3, but if I didn't, it's a 9.3. I think for characters, I'd give it a 9.2. They introduce so many different characters, and honestly, in season 1, you don't really get to know them that well. In season 2, you don't really get to know them like that much deeper, but just the wide range that they introduce and the amount that you know each character is an amount that it's kind of hard to replicate. It to me kind of reminds me of like Game of Thrones with the amount of characters that they were trying to build up in this world. So I feel like they did a really good job with the characters. I gave it a 9.2. And then the fights, I had it at a 9.1 for season 1. The fights were good. I'll definitely say this though: the fights in season 2 are better. They are better. But yeah, I give it about a 9.1 for the fights, and it's really good. It's kind of hard to like take in the first time you're watching it because you don't know what's happening, and that kind of goes back into the dialogue part of why they talk so much about what's going on. But once you know what's going on, it's good. It's really, really good fight scenes. I know it kind of seems bare bones, but yeah. Anyway, all right, so let's see, total rating, I'll bump it up a 0.1 because now going back over this, it's reminded me that the bonus categories kind of definitely can prop it up a little bit. So for the final total rating for Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1, kind of stuttered my words there, we are going to go with an 8.8. The reason we're going with an 8.8 is because I do feel like the dialogue and like the kind of this like the constant like teaching that they're doing to you, it does get a little old, but the whole package itself, if they could have fixed the dialogue and they could have fixed like kind of some issues with the plot and it being a little bit slower and kind of leading you on to this bigger thing and then just kind of like shrinking back down and then going back up at the end of the season. I did feel like at the end of the season, they ramp up very quickly at the beginning, and then it kind of comes back down, and they ramp up slightly at the end of the season, and then into season two. But yeah, I give it an 8.8 for season one of Jujutsu Kaisen. It's a really good show. I would recommend it to people. Definitely is a good fighting anime. I think it's really good for that. And yeah, that's pretty much the review. So 8.8 for Jujutsu Kaisen season one. Thank you guys for watching, and peace.